Go.
Yeah.
Hey there, everybody. This is Wendy Hernandez. Welcome back for another episode of the Family Law Insider podcast. Today's guest is a masterful lover. He is a lot more than that, though. His name is David Shade, and David is kind of a regular old guy, but he's discovered a lot of secrets in his own journey from divorce to singlehood to finding joy with women. So today, David is going to talk with us about 4 secrets that men need to know to prevent infidelity in their relationships. And the reason I thought that this conversation was important to have is because I've had probably hundreds of men come to me in my career as a divorce attorney in Phoenix who were dumbfounded when they found out their wives were cheating and wanted a divorce. So David's going to help us with that today. And thank you for joining me, David.
Hi, Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, David, I've read a little bit about your story, and of course we've talked offline, and I know your background in terms of where you're coming from and the work that you do. So, can you first tell people what you do and how you got there?
The story that got me there is a lot more interesting than what I do now. Like we spoke about before we went live, was a long time ago in a previous life. I was married. Seemed like a happy marriage. We had 2 beautiful children. We had a nice big home in the suburbs that we built. We both had nice jobs. Had sex every night. Always simultaneous orgasms. I was a happy man.
Yeah.
And after 8 years of marriage, she just got a new boyfriend and left. She left me with the kids.
She left you with the kids?
Walked out.
Oh, wow.
So, I took responsibility. I was not victim mentality or anything like that. I took responsibility and I set out to figure out what did I do wrong.
When you say you took responsibility, David, can you explain exactly what you mean by that?
Well, it takes 2 to tango, right? And what I've come to discover over the many years since then is ultimately the responsibility is that of the man's. It is the man's responsibility, especially the sexual aspects of the relationship, but certainly a lot others. When a marriage fails and I talk to the husband, I eventually find out where he went wrong. And the husband's always the last to know. But I always hold the man responsible for it. If you go back to tradition, and you can go all the way back to DNA, the man is supposed to lead. And if he does the correct job of leadership, if he is the leader and he does that properly, everything's going to work. And in my case, the funny thing is, I went all the way back to the beginning. I selected wrong. I chose the wrong girl. And I have to take responsibility for that. That's all on me.
Okay. And so in doing that, look back, were there things that you saw in your look back that were clues that you had selected the wrong person, or that you were in the process of selecting that wrong person while you were dating? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know what? The funny thing is, back then I realized it. Back then I knew, this isn't really what I really want, but there's a lot of really good things about it. But I didn't believe enough in myself to think that I could really find what I wanted. And I don't know what the term is. It wasn't settled. I didn't settle. I gave up on believing in me. But we were very happy at the time. We got along very well. She was hot as hell. I'm a guy, right?
Yeah.
I was happy.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I can wake up with her every day. I'd be a happy man. And if we decide to have children, great. If we don't, fine. And everything else, she was going pretty well for 8 years.
From your perspective?
From my perspective. But a lot was going on that I was not aware of, or that I was blind to, or I chose to not be aware of.
Do you remember her trying to communicate with you about, hey, I'm not happy, or this is going on for me? Did any of that happen, or were you truly blindsided?
From my perspective, I was truly blindsided. She never sat down with me and said, hey, I'm not happy, this and this is wrong, you do something quick or I'm going to go find a boyfriend. No. But in a fashion, she did communicate with me. She started nagging. I noticed that I lost respect from her. And
Okay.
when she was nagging and I felt I was losing respect, basically she was communicating to me.
So you say that her nagging was a sign to you. Let me make sure I'm understanding. Her nagging was at least one symptom of the loss of respect?
Yes, the nagging is a form of loss of respect, yes. There were other forms of loss of respect, but I could tell I didn't command respect with her anymore.
Okay.
Then other things happened. We got into quarrels about money. She was communicating in a fashion. She was doing what she knew to do, and what a girl does who's frustrated. And I didn't know how to address it. I felt that I was walking on eggshells. It came to a point where I felt like I couldn't do anything right.
That's got to be a hard feeling.
It was scary.
Did you love her? Did you love her?
I loved her, yes. I was not in love with her.
And
And the reason is because we never developed a deep emotional intimacy. Pure and simple. We never became each other's best friends. We never got really close. Never happened.
throughout the 8-year marriage.
Throughout the 8-year marriage. And the funny thing is, about 5 years into the marriage, I was looking at her in, the old story. I looked at her in the living room, sitting next to me in the living room, and I thought, something's got to be different. Aren't we supposed to be getting to know each other better? And I tried to do that. I didn't know what it was called at the time. I didn't know anything about emotional connection or any of that shit. I was an engineer,
Yeah.
But I realized that something was going on with me. I was growing up. And I was trying to connect with her. And I couldn't do it. Either I didn't have the skills, or I wasn't capable, or she wasn't capable, but it wasn't happening.
So what were you doing to try to connect, and what would you tell guys out there who are trying to connect with their wives or girlfriends that they need to do?
By that point, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I had no freaking clue. No freaking clue. I don't even remember what I tried. I can guess what I tried. Part of me thought, this is me. I'm different. I've grown up. This is me. Maybe it's just something weird going on with me. I didn't understand it. I don't even remember what I tried. I didn't know what to try.
Okay.
So, of course, later, that's one of the things I was determined to figure out.
Yes. So, okay, so obviously whatever you tried didn't work out because you found out she had a boyfriend. And that
Well,
was
later, at about 8-year point, then things started really going downhill. We really got into quarrels, a lot of nagging. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. I was super cautious, scared. And then on Saturday nights, she'd start going out with her girlfriends. Then it got to be Friday and Saturday nights she's going out with her girlfriends. And by then it was done.
And did she just leave?
No, she didn't. Also, another thing I should mention is the frequency of sex went down. That's when you know you're in big trouble. That's.
But do you? I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, let me just answer your question. I just wanted to stick that in.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, did she leave? No, she didn't. I sat her down. I said, look, you've got to tell me what's going on.
Okay.
We're not leaving this couch until you tell me what's going on. And she said, I want a divorce. You get the kids. I'm moving out.
Wow.
And I begged her to explain. She didn't have anything to say. She wouldn't talk to me. And the following weekend, she moved out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get an explanation?
No, I didn't. But I figured it out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you figured out that she was having an affair?
Oh yeah, because it was later that night or the next night or something. I went into my den to call my parents. That was back when, long time ago, when there were landlines, and you have one telephone number, but a whole bunch of phones in the house.
Yes.
I picked up the extension in the den to call my parents, and I heard her talking on the phone on the extension in the bedroom, talking to her sister about the guy she's been fucking for the last 2 months.
Oh my God. Wow.
So I quietly set the phone back down, and I went out to my front steps, and I sat there and stared into the front lawn. And I felt like I'd been punched in the nose, punched in the ears, and stabbed in the heart, and the knife twisted.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's heavy.
And I actually met the guy.
You did meet him?
I did. That's one of the first things I did on my journey of educating myself. Because I had kids, I was stuck at home. But on one Saturday night, I decided to get a babysitter, and I went out with a buddy of mine to the local nightclubs, and I saw her with him. So then I knew what he looked like. Now, the following weekend, this is sometime later, she actually started taking the boys on Saturday nights, just for Saturday night. Like every second or fourth Saturday night, she'd take them overnight. And so on my night off, I went out with my buddy to the nightclubs. And guess who I saw? I saw the bad boy.
Uh-huh.
He was with another woman doing to her what he'd been doing to my wife.
Oh my goodness.
So I walked up to him, kind of startled him because he knew who I was. I said, dude, I am not here to kill you. I just want to know one thing. What did you do right, and what did I do wrong? And that guy sang like a bird.
Yeah, he did.
I'd like to think that he did that out of fear for his life, but he probably did it to brag. So he basically said everything. Of course, his advice is very bad, but it's what a bad boy does.
Okay.
So I thought, wow, this has been a long history of mine. I remember in high school I couldn't get the date. Oh, but she'd go date the bad boy, and then she'd come back and cry on my shoulder about how he treats her like dirt. It's a long-standing problem in my life. I'm a nice guy. I'm a boring nice guy. So, among all the other research I did, I researched bad boys. And I decided I'd become one. And I did. I was a disgusting slime. I was a total jerk.
Really?
Yeah, with the convertible Corvette and the leather jacket and everything. I was an a-hole. And you know what? It freaking worked.
It worked.
Really, really well.
Well, yeah.
But the problem is, it worked on the wrong women. And I started seeing, okay, this works on some women, but not the women I'm interested in. And that set me on a whole new journey there, a whole new direction. I gave up the bad boy phase. It churned my stomach. But it was a very good learning experience.
Yes.
And I set on another direction, which had more to do with selecting the right woman. Everything Everything has to do with selecting the right woman. Success begins by choosing wisely. You choose the wrong one, you've got no hope. You choose the right one, yeah, you have hope. Then you just have to do your job as the leader, as the man, etc.
So, yeah, and there's a couple of things that I want to ask you about there. First of all, the concept of the man, being responsible for the relationship, I have to admit is not something that I'm used to hearing. I'm used to hearing that, hey, both the man and the woman are equally responsible for this relationship. Is that something that, is that an objection to what your position is that you've heard more than once?
No, it's not. It's a viewpoint. It's
Okay.
a viewpoint. All right. If you're a man, your job is, number one, to select wisely. If you select wisely, she is going to respond perfectly to all the correct things you do. She's also going to hold you responsible to your screw-ups.
Okay.
If you select wisely, everything that you do properly, she will naturally respond to perfectly.
Okay.
Period. Okay. This does not work on a lot of women, and there's a lot of women that you can do all the right things and there's no hope.
So
I don't know how to help that situation. I am not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. I don't know how to help that situation. But if a man comes to me with a failed marriage, first thing I ask him is about her. I want to know, did you select wisely?
Okay.
That's a whole other subject.
Right.
Then I want to know, all right, what are the things that you did? And I'll find out, did the guy really provide leadership? Was he the man in the relationship? On and on and on. So it's a viewpoint, okay?
Yeah.
I can understand that other people from a different perspective have a different viewpoint, which makes complete sense. But yeah. I help guys.
Yes.
And
yes.
Nothing's going to change until they accept responsibility, period.
Yep. I'm a big believer in accepting responsibility, and as a woman, I think like my default is to be a victim. I've mentioned this in other shows before, and for a long time when I was caught up in my own victimness, just nothing seemed to go right. And it was when I finally started looking at myself and saying, hey, what is it? What could I do better? What am I doing wrong? And I began to accept responsibility for what was happening and for the way I was acting. Then things started to really change. So I can identify with that, and I agree with you 100% on that's a good first step, accepting responsibility.
Absolutely. And from a woman's perspective, it could be very true that the woman is responsible for everything. The first thing she has to do is select wisely. If she selects a man in every sense of the term, with all the other stuff, she can just enjoy being a woman, and he's going to do everything properly.
Yeah.
A woman's responsibility begins by selecting wisely.
Yes. So is that one of the keys, in your opinion, to preventing infidelity, is selecting wisely?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's the first. You don't get that right, there will be infidelity. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
All right.
But if you select wisely, then it's just a matter of doing your job right.
Okay.
And that's probably where that probably gets into the subject that you originally wanted me to talk about. I'm not leading you here on.
Oh no, I want to, yeah. So I think that is a good first step. And then so what else is there to it? And I had read an article that you wrote about Leanne Rimes, and how she left her, I think, very handsome husband for another guy, which was shocking to me. And if I remember correctly, the other guy, his name is Dean, and he's like some sort of actor as well. She's a singer, but he was married at the time. Is that correct, David?
Okay, I'm trying to think back on that. Oh, gosh. A friend of mine always points out these Hollywood celebrities and their drama in their life.
Yeah.
And then I'll go read up on it, and then I'll go to my blog and I'll comment on it. And there have been so many screw-ups that they all just meld into big gray mess.
Yes.
And there's no question that her husband wasn't doing the job. And
Yeah.
it's the same formula time and time again. The guy was just not doing the job. I have seen so many women make really foolish choices, but I've also seen men do some terrible screw-ups. And, you know, they're a sad excuse for a man. So what woman wouldn't go somewhere else?
So what else does a guy have to do his job, in your opinion?
Right, okay. And this gets to what you first contacted me about, the 4 things that a woman has to feel in order to have a successful relationship. Well, first of all, there has to be attraction, there has to be trust, there has to be respect, on and on and on. Once those things are there are 4 things that absolutely must be true for her to be happy in a relationship. Number 1, she has to feel special. I don't know how better to explain it. She has to feel special.
Okay.
She needs to feel that she is supported by her man, that she's unique among all others. Man, she is the queen, she is adored, all those things.
Yes.
That he's got her back. Number 2, she has to feel a deep, intimate, emotional connection with her man. That absolutely has to be there. That was the thing that was missing in my marriage. Absolutely has to have a deep emotional connection with her man, which means that she receives emotional reward by emoting with her man. When she has an emotion, first thing she goes is to her man.
Yep.
She also feels that he's being emotionally genuine with her. And believe it or not, men actually, they won't admit it, but they do want to be.
Yeah.
She has that deep emotional intimacy, critically important.
Okay.
Number 3, she needs to enjoy all those things that come with being a woman. She needs to feel feminine and beautiful and sexy and adored and desired. She needs to enjoy everything that comes with being a woman. Makes her feel like a woman.
Yep.
And number 4, she needs to have hot, passionate sex. Pure and simple.
So can we talk about a couple of these for a minute?
Okay. I think we're not going to be starting at the 4th one.
What's that?
I have a feeling we're not going to be starting with the 4th one.
No. No, we're not. We're not. No, we're not. So, number 2, she has to feel the deep emotional connection, which you said that you never had in your relationship with your wife, that you were trying to get going with her, but that you were not successful in doing. So, do you have concrete ideas for guys who are maybe not feeling like they have that connection going on? What can they do?
Well, my dating.
Go ahead.
In my dating, since I figured that part out, is the first thing I'll do with a woman is try to dig for that emotional connection. If I can't get that right away, it ain't going to happen. Well, okay. Sure, I start with attraction, try and get her attracted to me, all that stuff. But very early, very, very early in the relationship, I will see if I can actually feel that deep emotional connection happening. And if it's not going in that direction, I'll move on. That absolutely has to be there first.
Okay. I agree with that, 100%.
Now, how do you do that in dating? I don't know. I'm not a dating coach. I don't know anything about pickup. I just do what a guy does, right?
Yeah.
But in the context of a relationship, I can tell by talking to a guy if he has that with her or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, if a man were to understand what it means when you're in a relationship to have a deep emotional connection, he will be able to identify it very early in dating somebody new. And that deep emotional connection is, does she come to you to emote? does that give her emotional reward? Do you feel that you get emotional reward or a closer connection to her, whatever guy wants to call it, by her sharing her emotions with you and you telling her what's really on your mind and in your heart? If you have that, that's there.
Do you think that emotional connection kind of goes up and down or ebbs and flows in the lifetime of any relationship?
Yeah, they all do.
Yeah.
All four concepts ebb and flow. Other things ebb and flow. Attraction ebb and flows. Trust ebb and flows. Respect ebb and flows. Sure.
Okay. Thank you. So on this idea of...
It's never always rosy.
No, it isn't. It never is.
And we're humans.
So on this idea of the woman needing to feel sexy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and feminine and beautiful, you know, I've had experience with women who, you know, have some serious self-esteem issues, you know, issues where they just don't love themselves, where they hate their body. You know, they've always had these issues since they were kids. You know, what would you say to that? I mean, because it seems in a situation like that, despite what a guy might do, it may not be good enough because a woman just doesn't.
It won't be.
Yeah.
It won't be. It will not. There is absolutely nothing he can do. In fact, the harder he tries, the worse it's going to get.
Okay. So, and I guess just in sort of thinking this through in my brain, maybe this goes back to selecting right.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
I know it's not fair. I know it's not fair. What can I say? It's not fair.
All right.
And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I would tell a man, support her in her going forth to work on herself.
Yeah.
But that's her responsibility.
Yes.
He can't do it for her, and it ain't going to work unless she wants it to, and that's a whole different discipline.
Okay. All right. So number 4, hot, passionate sex. You know, I had this conversation with, she's actually a sex therapist out of San Diego. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. Her name's Dr. Jen Gonzalez. And she was on my show. You know, and I was talking with her about bringing the sexy back into your romantic relationships. And earlier in the conversation, David, you were mentioning how in your own marriage, like the frequency of sex, it just, you know, it decreased. And so that...
At the end. Mm-hmm.
So... I mean, isn't it normal for the frequency of sex to decline as relationships, you know, go on for longer, as maybe kids come into the picture and people get busy with careers and school and soccer?
No.
No?
No. No. When it's good, when it's really good, she can't get it enough.
And so in your experience, is it usually the woman who is just not wanting it as much?
Yeah, in a relationship that's not working.
Yeah.
However, my clients have a completely different problem. She's got to have it constantly, and he's going, dude, man, you know, you got any suggestions on health pills? Do you suggest some kind of workout regimen I should start?
Well, I guess that's a pretty good problem for a guy to have.
Oh, they get irate. Oh, these guys are mad. And then they say, how can I keep her happy? I'm going to digress here. I opened up some. I have to answer that. I tell them, your woman doesn't want you to keep her satiated. Your woman wants you to keep her constantly horny.
Interesting. Okay.
It's true.
I don't even know what to say. Like, I think you're the first one left me speechless here. I don't even know what to say. Okay. So, That's awesome, David. And you have like so many resources for guys, who are looking to get to the point where they're asking you for health pills because they can't keep up with their woman. So tell me a little bit, because it's about time to close out the interview. But tell me what you do now, how you can help people, and who it is that you're helping.
It started with helping guys just be a better lover, okay? Guys that were dating, guys who got a new girlfriend, wanted to keep her, just wanted to do a good, impressive job, and guys that just enjoy being good at that. And I still do that. But then men would come to me and say, well, I'm in this relationship, how can I make it better? And I'd help them with that. And then it became guys coming to me in their marriage asking how to make the relationship better, how to make they think that by making the sex better, the relationship's going to get better, which is BS. And by the way, the hot, passionate sex does not exist unless the first three things are first there. Yes. Those things have to be. And then number four, just take care of itself.
Okay.
So I started helping them, and I started getting into coaching, and I've never been interested in men. I don't care about men. I only cared about female sexuality. But in order to help these men, two things happen. Number one, I generally want to help them. And number two, I started seeing challenges that they had that I was not aware of. And I saw what they were doing wrong, causing the challenge. And then I actually started helping men with them. And then they were able to be effective in their relationship. So it's be a better lover, have a better relationship, make your marriage better, on and on and on. Those are the main key points, though.
Okay. All right. And you've written a couple of books, haven't you, David?
Oh, I've written, wow, what are we up to, about like 9 or 10 books now?
Oh, wow.
And they're each in a category. Like I have an introductory book that just lays out the belief systems. I have a Select Women Wisely, shows exactly how to select the right woman. I have Give Women, great title, Give Women Wild Screaming Orgasms, how to give women orgasms like they've never had before, on and on and on.
Okay.
Covering every category.
All right, so there's a lot of resources out there for the guys who are looking to do any of the things that you just named off. And David, how can they find you? How can guys connect with you?
Go to davidshade.com. Shade like window shade, lamp shade. davidshade.com.
All right. And so there you have it, guys. I mean, that's in a nutshell the 4 ways that you can prevent infidelity. But, that's not all David has to offer. He has to offer a lot more that it seems like can make your relationship with the woman in your life a lot better in many ways. So check him out. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Family Law Insider podcast. Remember, we're on your side when it matters most. Excuse me. And I'll see you next time.